everyone, today I have for you my July wrap up. I didn't get as much read as I wanted to, which I thought was going to happen anyway because I've been really busy, but I did still get read quite a bit, so I'm going to tell you what I've read today and I hope you enjoy it. The first book I read was A Series of Unfortunate Events, The Reptile Room by Lemony Snicket, and this is the second book in the series. If you don't know what this series is about, it's about three Baudelaire orphans that end up losing their parents in a house fire, and they end up having to go to live with lots of different family members, one of which is Count Olaf, who is horrible. And he basically is only interested in the Baudelaire fortune. He's not interested in looking after the children at all, and he treats them really badly. I don't really want to say much more about it, and obviously this is the second book, so I don't really want to say much about this one either. But I will just say that they end up living with Uncle Monty in this story, and he has a love of reptiles. I found this to be a really super quick read. I mean, it's really short anyway. It took me only a few hours to read, if that, and I just really enjoyed it. It was super fast paced, really funny and really humorous, and still dark at the same time though. It was funny but dark. It's just a bit of a mix. Lemony Snicket's really good at writing that. I loved the children in this story because they were just so supportive of each other, and you could tell the love for each other and how much they wanted to help and just sort of get out of the situations that they're in. And they always try to keep each other positive because they're going through so much rubbish and they still try to keep positive. It's really hard for them obviously because of the amount of horrible things that are happening to them, but they do try to stay positive anyway. Count Olaf is such a stupid character but so funny, and I love to read about Count Olaf. He's one of those characters that are just so unique but so memorable, and you're just not going to forget about him once you've read the Series of Unfortunate Events because he is such an iconic character. There was a character that really annoyed me though so much, and that was Mr. Poe. He doesn't listen to the kids at all. He really does not listen to those children, and if he just listened to them, problems would be sorted a lot quicker. But he doesn't listen, and therefore it takes him way too long to find out what the problems actually are and sort them out, because he just doesn't think listening to kids is a thing, and he thinks they're just all lying and making stories up, and they're not. They're very clever kids and they know what they're talking about, and Mr. Poe is a bit stupid. I adored Uncle Monty. Uncle Monty was such a cute character. He was so sweet and he cared for the children so well. And he was also really interesting to read about because he had this love for reptiles, like I said earlier, and that's something that you don't really see in books very often. So his love for reptiles was a really unique trait, I suppose, and it just made the story a lot more interesting. Overall, this was such a good read, so fast-paced, so engaging. It's a really good middle grade series, so I definitely recommend it to middle grade. And yeah, even if you're older than that, like I am, read it because it's so good, it's so funny, and like I said, they're really quick reads, so they're not going to take you very long. So yeah, definitely recommend it. And I give this one 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas. I have already read this as well, and so this was a reread for me. But I hadn't read it for a couple of years, so I just wanted to recap my memory before reading the rest of the series. If you don't know what this is about Feyre, who is a huntress, and she ends up hunting a wolf in the forest, and she doesn't realise this wolf is actually from the Feylands, and because it is from the Feylands, she's just cost herself her freedom. I'm not going to say much more about the synopsis. It's one of those I think you've just got to read, and you're gonna love it. It's such a good story. It's really fast paced, full of twists and turns, so engaging, so action packed. Definitely read this if you've not read it already. I really began to love Tamlin in this story quite quickly actually. I found him quite mysterious and quite witty, and if you've been watching my channel for a while, you will know those are the kind of characters I like the best. I love the mystery elements to characters, and they are the ones I find most interesting to read about usually. And I also love Feyre, as she is such a determined character and she's so strong-willed, and she's a really strong female protagonist, and that just looks great in stories, I think. I love reading about strong female protagonists. I also loved Rhysand. He was so quirky and so funny, and although in this book he's not meant to be a nice character as such, I couldn't help but love him. I think he's such a good character, and I know a lot of people have said that as well. They love Rhysand. He seems to be a very popular character. Amarantha is such an awful, horrible character, but I love her. And I know that's terrible, but I really love her. I just love how evil she is and how manipulating she is. Like, she is one of the most evil characters I think I've ever read about, and I'd love to see a backstory on her because it would be so interesting. I just want to know fully how she became this evil, because there's evil and then there's Amarantha. Like, she is just yeah, she's really evil. The settings and the locations in this story were really easy to follow and picture, and that just made the enjoyment of the story a lot more for me, because I find it easier and more enjoyable reading a story that I can picture really well, and because Sarah J Maas has amazing descriptive writing, I can do that really easily, and that did help how much I enjoyed the story. Overall, this is just such an action-packed story, and like I said, if you've not read it, I do highly recommend it. It's a really good Beauty and the Beast retelling as well, and so if you like Beauty and the Beast, I definitely recommend this as well. I love Beauty and the Beast, and yeah, I just really enjoyed the story. It was really good. And I think it's a really strong beginning to the series as well, and I give this 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read, I needed quite a quick, easy read after reading A Court of Thorns and Roses, because although it's such a good book, it's very action-packed and it really sort of tires your head out, I think. So I needed a really quick, easy read, and so I picked up Fantastic Mr. Fox by Roald Dahl. And this is about Mr. Fox and his family. He's got a wife and 4 children, and every day he sneaks into the farmer's farm, I suppose you could say, and steals food to feed his family, because otherwise they're not going to eat and they're going to starve. But one day, the 3 farmers, Bogus, Bunce and Bean, end up being there waiting for Mr. Fox, and they have guns. Now, Mr. Fox ends up getting out alive, but it's a close call and he ends up losing his tail. So obviously he knows he can't go the way he was going to go to the farm, and he starts worrying that his family are going to starve because the farmers are waiting for him. So he has to come up with his plan, and it's such a good plan, and it means lots of other animals end up getting involved as well, and it's really fun and it's really quick read. It's a tiny book, this one, it won't take you very long at all, and it's just super good for all ages. Obviously it's aimed at younger readers, but I love Roald Dahl writing now still, and I just highly recommend it. Now, the 3 farmers, Bogus, Bunce and Bean, are not the cleverest of people at all, but that makes them really funny, and each one of these characters have their very own unique personality as well, which I think Roald Dahl's really good at writing, and that's why his characters are so memorable, I feel. And I love the Fox family and how just loving they were for each other and how much they cared for each other, and just their support system was really, really good. It was just really cosy to read about when we were reading about the family, and it gives you that warm feeling. It's just really sweet. Like I said before, it's perfect for children, and it would be really good to read out loud actually and give each of the characters a different voice, because they're so different from each other, and I think you could really do that well and even like act it out of it. Roald Dahl's writing style is always so amusing to read about and so funny and witty, and it flows really well. It's got a sort of rhythm to it which makes the writing really smooth and really fast flowing, and you just don't get bored. And obviously the language he uses is very much for younger readers, but it is definitely worth reading at any age. He is just such an amazing author. And I give this book a 4 out of 5 stars. And I didn't get another book finished, but I did start another book and got about halfway through, and that was A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J Maas. So yeah, I'm roughly about halfway through, and I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm finding it a little bit more difficult to follow in this story. I keep getting a bit lost, but I am still really enjoying it, and I will just say very briefly, I love Rhysand so much. Obviously I'm not going to say anything more about this book yet, and I'm not going to give it a rating because I've not finished it, but I will do that in my August wrap-up. So that's it for my July wrap-up. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. All of my social media links are in the description below for you to go check out if you'd like to, and I will see you all in my next video very soon. Bye!